Loretta Lynn was more than just a country music legend. She was a voice for women, a storyteller of truth, and a symbol of resilience. But behind the rhinestones, bright lights, and chart-topping songs, Loretta carried a secret that almost no one knew. A secret not about fame, fortune, or success, but about love. In the world she grew up in, love was expected to follow certain rules. Country stars were supposed to sing about heartache and devotion, but their own lives were meant to look clean, traditional, and unshakably perfect. Yet Loretta's heart had its own path, and for a time, that path led her into the arms of someone unexpected, an old Hollywood singer who, like Loretta, knew what it meant to hide a part of herself from the world. Their bond was tender, fragile, and forbidden. It existed in secret letters, quiet meetings, and hidden moments of honesty that Loretta could never bring to the stage. She never sang their story out loud, but if you listen closely to certain lyrics, you can almost hear her unspoken truth. This is the story Loretta Lynn never told. Her hidden love, the risks she faced keeping it quiet, and how that secret shaped the woman the world came to admire. Loretta Lynn's story begins in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, where she was born into a world of coal mines, small-town traditions, and hard living. Growing up in poverty, Loretta learned resilience early. She married young, started her family quickly, and seemed destined for a quiet life far from fame. But destiny had other plans. With nothing more than her determination, a guitar gifted to her by her husband, and a voice that could stop a room cold, Loretta stepped onto a path that would change country music forever. When she broke into Nashville in the 1960s, she was unlike anyone the industry had seen before. Loretta wasn't polished or manufactured. She was raw, honest, and bold. Her songs weren't about pretending life was easy. They were about survival, heartbreak, womanhood, and speaking the truths most singers avoided. With hits like Don't Come Home A-Drinkin' and Coal Miner's Daughter, she became the voice of working-class women across America. But as her fame grew, so did the expectations. Country music was, and still is, steeped in tradition, especially for its female stars. Loretta was expected to present herself as the picture of moral purity, a devoted wife and mother who sang the truth but never stirred scandal. Every lyric she released, every appearance she made was carefully examined. Behind the scenes, though, Loretta was human. She was a woman with feelings, desires, and struggles of her own. And as much as she sang about independence and female strength, she also knew the price of stepping outside of the boundaries set by her industry. A female country star in the 1960s couldn't afford rumors, much less truths that the public wasn't ready to accept. It was during these years of balancing stardom with secrecy that Loretta's heart found itself caught in a complicated place. She would meet someone who understood the pressures of fame, someone who, like her, was living under the weight of expectation. And while Loretta's songs told the world one story, her heart was quietly living another, one that would remain hidden for decades. It was the early 1970s, and Loretta Lynn had already become one of the most powerful voices in country music. Her fame reached far beyond Nashville, pulling her into circles that few small-town girls from Kentucky could ever imagine. Award shows, industry gatherings, and Hollywood parties all became part of her new reality. It was at one of these glimmering events that Loretta crossed paths with a woman who would change her life forever, an old Hollywood singer whose career had once burned brightly on the silver screen. This woman, though celebrated, carried a secret of her own. In a time when personal image was carefully controlled by studios and managers, her true self was something she could never reveal to the public. Behind her glamorous smile lived a loneliness that only someone else living under the same weight of expectation could understand. Loretta saw through it immediately, recognizing in her the same kind of quiet yearning she herself had been carrying. Their connection was instant, not in a dramatic, headline-making way, but in a subtle, almost invisible one. It began with casual conversations, lingering eye contact, and the kind of comfort that doesn't need words. Loretta, who had spent years being told how she should look, act, and even think, found herself with someone who made her feel truly seen. For once, she wasn't Loretta Lynn, the star, but simply Loretta, the woman, the friend, the human being. They began to meet in places away from the cameras. Sometimes it was in dressing rooms before shows, sometimes in quiet hotel lounges, sometimes through late-night phone calls that stretched until dawn. These moments were their own private world, away from the expectations of audiences and the judgment of an industry that was unforgiving to women who didn't fit its rules. But secrecy came at a cost. For every moment of tenderness, there was the fear of discovery. Loretta knew that if the press ever caught wind of their bond, the consequences could be devastating. She could lose fans, face industry backlash, and watch everything she had built crumble. The old Hollywood singer faced the same risks. Her entire image had been built on illusion, and exposure could destroy what little privacy she had left. Yet despite the dangers, their bond grew stronger. They found solace in each other, a kind of unspoken love that gave Loretta strength even as it demanded silence. In her music, Loretta began to pour out emotions that hinted at truths she could never say outright. Songs about longing, about forbidden desires, and about the ache of secrets hidden deep within began to take on new meaning. Their story was never one of scandal, but of survival. It was a reminder that even the brightest stars could still be trapped in shadows, and that love, no matter how powerful, sometimes had to remain unspoken. For Loretta and her Hollywood confidant, their romance was both a gift and a burden, a beautiful connection destined to live only in whispers. As Loretta's fame soared through the 1970s, the world saw her as unstoppable, a queen of country music who never shied away from saying what women were too afraid to admit. On stage, she was bold, fearless, and unapologetic. But off stage, she was carrying a secret so heavy that it threatened to consume her. Every moment with her Hollywood confidant was precious, yet every moment was also dangerous. A wrong glance at a public event, an innocent gesture mistaken for something more, or even a rumor whispered in the wrong ear could destroy everything. For Loretta, the stakes were higher than most. She wasn't just a star, she was a symbol. She had become the voice of working-class women, of wives, of mothers. If the truth of her hidden romance ever surfaced, it wouldn't just be her career on the line, it would shatter the image her audience clung to. And so their love became a series of stolen moments. Behind closed doors, Loretta allowed herself to be vulnerable. She could laugh freely, cry openly, and admit to the fears she hid from everyone else. Her companion provided a safe place, reminding her that she was more than just a country music icon. But the very act of hiding brought its own pain. Secrecy created distance, and the fear of exposure often smothered the joy they found in each other. There were nights when Loretta would return from a performance, applause still ringing in her ears, only to feel the crushing loneliness of a love she could never acknowledge. She poured these emotions into her songwriting, crafting lyrics that hinted at longing, loss, and the torment of silence. For fans, her songs resonated because they sounded universal. For Loretta, they were confessions disguised as music. Meanwhile, her companion in Hollywood bore her own struggles. She, too, lived in a world that demanded perfection and punished honesty. While her star power had dimmed somewhat, the scrutiny of the press never left her. Both women understood that exposure could turn admiration into condemnation overnight. What hurt the most wasn't just the risk, it was the absence. Weeks could pass without them seeing each other, and in those gaps the silence felt unbearable. Letters were written but never sent. Phone calls were cut short. Loretta often wondered whether the secrecy was worth the heartbreak, but every time she considered walking away, she realized that their bond was unlike anything she had ever known. The pressure, however, left scars. Loretta carried guilt for hiding her truth, guilt for living a double life, and guilt for knowing that a love so profound had no place in the world she inhabited. It weighed on her heart, even as she smiled for cameras and performed for sold-out crowds. This was the paradox of Loretta Lynn. To millions, she was the most honest woman in country music. Yet the most important truth of her own life was one she could never reveal. And as the years went by, the secret became less of a choice and more of a prison. By the time Loretta Lynn reached the later chapters of her career, she had already secured her place as one of the greatest voices in country music. Her legacy was written in gold records, awards, and the countless fans who saw themselves in her songs. Yet behind the spotlight, the secret romance she carried for decades remained tucked away like a hidden diary. Never spoken, never confessed, but always present. For Loretta, the weight of that secret was bittersweet. On one hand, the secrecy had spared her career from scandal in a time when the world was not ready to embrace such truths. On the other hand, it meant that one of the deepest loves of her life was lived in silence, known only in fleeting moments and unsung lyrics. What the public heard were love songs, heartbreak ballads, and fierce anthems about women standing strong. But within those words lay the echoes of feelings she could never admit. Her old Hollywood confidant eventually faded from the public eye, retreating into quiet anonymity. Loretta, however, remained a star until her final days. Yet those who knew her best often noticed a certain melancholy beneath her radiant smile, as though some part of her heart had been left unfulfilled. In recent years, fans and historians have speculated on the meaning behind some of Loretta's most haunting songs. Were they truly about her marriage struggles, or did they hint at something deeper, something the world wasn't ready to hear at the time? While no definitive answers exist, the possibility itself has reshaped how people see her work. It has given her music new layers of depth, proof that art often carries truths hidden between the lines. The beauty of Loretta's story is that even in secrecy, love left its mark. That hidden romance gave her a well of emotion to draw from, fueling her music with an authenticity that can't be faked. It showed her, and through her, it showed the world, that love does not have to fit into society's narrow boxes to be real, powerful, and life-changing. As fans look back on Loretta Lynn's extraordinary life, the whispers of her hidden love serve as a reminder. Even legends are human. They laugh, they ache, and sometimes they carry secrets too heavy to share. Loretta may never have spoken her truth aloud, but in her own way, she left it behind, in the passion of her voice, in the longing of her lyrics, and in the strength of her story. Her legacy, then, is not just that of a country music icon, but of a woman who lived with courage, complexity, and unspoken love. And perhaps that is the greatest truth of all, that even in silence, love has the power to endure, shaping the very soul of the songs we still cherish today.